This video is for the newbies out there, the beginners who are just getting into audio engineering. Now, if you are just getting into audio engineering, I would recommend my free online recording school playlist, which I'll link to below or in the comments section. There you'll find a lot of great information, which you may or may not understand in this video yet, but if you watch some of those videos, you will understand. This is specifically about which plugins I would get if I were going for just the essentials. In general, there are 6 categories of plugins: utility, equalizers, compressors, spatial effects, saturation, and plugins that are specific to mastering. Without further ado, let's get started with the utility plugins. First up is SonarWorks Reference 4, and basically the most important thing when you're recording, mixing, or mastering is what you hear. Just ask any engineer who's been around for a while. One of the biggest frustrations is that when you mix something on your speakers and then you go to listen to them on other speakers and your mixes don't sound good. SonarWorks Reference helps to prevent that issue from happening. And although it is the most expensive hardware/software on this list, I think it's essential, and I wouldn't get anything else without this one plugin. In fact, if all you can do is afford this one plugin, I would use free plugins for the rest of your mixes. Secondly is noise reduction software. Now, if you record everything and you don't have any noise, then great, but more than likely you're going to have noise at some point, and Bruce Free is the cheapest but really good noise reduction plugin out there. Regate is a plugin that comes with Reaper. I believe you can download it for free as well if you use another DAW, digital audio workstation, aka music production software. But I'm not sure about that, but I do know that Kakos Reaper has it built in, and gates are essential. Technically, a gate is dynamics. It's like a compressor in a way, but I say it's a utility plugin, and I'm sticking to that. Next up, we have our metering plugin. This one is TB Pro Audio's MV Meter 2, and basically it's a ripoff of Klanghelm's VUMT. You can get it for free. That's why I'm using it. But hey, it looks great. I don't know if the ballistics of the meters are precise. I know that there was some controversy on KVR forums with that. But hey, the way I look at it, this looks great and it works. It also has this nice feature where you play your track and then you hit this button and it trims the level so that it's right at 0. As long as you have it set on the VU standard, it works that way. So yeah, definitely recommend this plugin. And finally, this is an alternative. I use it because I do video productions and they need certain loudness and it needs to be precise. And Tone Boosters is precise. My favorite mode is switching it to this. And then we also make it synchronized and reset it and hit play. And then I can see the loudness range. It works really well. Next up are my EQ plugins, also known as equalizers. And you will be using equalizers all the time. It is how you make individual tracks sound great, and then therefore the rest of your mix sounds great as well. The ones that I would pick, and again, this is all about buying the least amount of plugins. The first one I would get is Ozone. I have version 7 advanced, but this comes with the standard version as well. And it is a great overall EQ. If you click on this, it shows you even more options. So you have your analog style EQs. You have options over here. You have options down here. You have the digital side of things. I tell you, this is one thing that a lot of people don't talk about too often. And it's a great plugin. It's a great EQ. And I would highly recommend Ozone 7 because you'll see in a few seconds. Next up, I almost did not include this on the list, but the thing is, this plugin's free, so I figure you may as well use it. And the main reason is it has this dynamic EQ section, which basically means that, let's say I have a track and I EQ'd it really well, but all of a sudden, for some reason, either the person moved too close to the microphone or there was a note that was way too loud. Well, this plugin can knock that individual note down just for that duration of time, and then the EQ goes back to normal. I can't tell you enough how powerful that is, and that is why I recommend Nova. Even though Ozone also has a dynamic EQ section, I think Nova has a very smooth sound to it. I mean, Ozone 7's fine, but really, this plugin, I really use it a lot. I use it on vocals a lot to knock down what's called sibilance. That's that harsh sound on vocals. You may have heard it, you may have not. But either way, I can't not use Nova on mixes anymore. I also use it a lot on bass guitar. Next up is compressors, and I just have one plugin listed here because this one plugin can handle a ton of different compression scenarios. Therefore, I highly recommend it because it's just awesome. And it's very affordable at about 25 bucks, maybe 30 depending on the currency exchange. But yeah, Klanghelm DC8C, now in version 3, is just pure awesomeness. Next up are my spatial effects. Here's another one where I wasn't sure if I was going to include it because it's so expensive, but honestly, this is the Rolls Royce of delays, and if you buy this one delay, you'll never have to buy another delay plugin again. And it is called Soundtoys Echo Boy, and it is just superb. It sounds fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. Just get it. But if you can't get it, if it is too expensive for you, then this is the alternative, Waves H Delay. Definitely not as good as Echo Boy, but still all right. Now, you may or may not need a chorusing effect, but if you do, then this one is really good and it's free. It's Blue Cat's Chorus, and there's no reason not to download it because, again, it is free. All right, now we're getting to the reverb. And reverb is very important because it adds that 3D effect to your different tracks. And not all reverbs are made equal. Nimbus, which I do plan on reviewing within the next 30 days, maybe even sooner because my trial will expire very soon. But the bottom line is, Nimbus is the evolution of Phoenix Verb, which I do own. And Phoenix Verb is awesome. I love it. It is my favorite plugin for reverb. But Nimbus is the newer version. They've added a bunch of new presets. They've added a lot more controls. It sounds better, a little bit, I guess. Phoenix Verb's great, don't get me wrong, but Nimbus is where it's at, and that's why I would recommend it for the plugin minimalists out there. Next up, saturation plugins. First of all, once again, Ozone 7, or Ozone 8 nowadays, we got this, the Exciter. The Exciter can do a bunch of different things. And what is a saturation plugin, you might ask? Well, back in the day, music was all mixed with analog gear. And these days, because things are recorded digitally, well, the tracks just don't sound like they used to. And a lot of that has to do with harmonics. And so you have to digitally add harmonics to get stuff sounding more analog. And what does that mean? Basically, to me, it means that the tracks just have that 3D quality to them where it sounds more like you're actually there with the musicians and that the sounds aren't pressed against the speakers. That, to me, is what saturation is all about. Now, there's other things involved with that. Basically, you can drive a sound really hard and create harmonics that way, and you get some softening effects. So that helps a little bit with compression. But as far as I'm concerned, saturation has a lot to do with just making things sound more professional, more polished. It's hard to describe, but when you hear it, You hear it, and you'll never want to not use saturation. So next up is a freebie plugin from Klanghelm. It's called IVGI2, and this plugin specifically is based off of their SDRR, which is their paid version of the plugin, and it is based off the desk model, which is great because that's like a mixing console, like one of those big mixing consoles you see in pictures in big studios. Well, that simulates that sound, and yeah, good times. And then finally, another freebie. I figured I'd throw this one in there because everybody likes to talk about tube saturation. And guess what? WaveArts have a free plugin that many consider to be the most accurate tube simulator plugin out there. And like I said, it's free. The only thing is you do need a pretty powerful computer to use it within a large mix. But hey, that's what bouncing and rendering tracks is all for, right? Finally, we have our Master Bus plugins. First of all, once again, Ozone. And as you can see, all these different modules are here to be picked. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Now, again, this is the advanced version, so I believe we get the EQ and the exciter, and then dynamics and dynamics EQ. I think post EQ, and I know the imager's in there. So I guess I'll talk about the imager and the maximizer because I haven't talked about that. So basically, when you get to the end of your mix, if your tracks still don't have that 3D sound to them, there's two things I like to do. Number one, I'll add a reverb to the overall mix and then just blend it in very slightly. But the other thing I like to do, if that doesn't do the job, I also like to add a stereo imaging plugin to the end of the mix. Now, is this the best imaging plugin out there? No, but that would mean you had to buy something else. So the way I figure it, if you just buy Ozone, you'll get a lot of plugins all in one for a relatively affordable price. I believe it's $250 for the standard version. I'll get to the prices in a minute. But the imager in this plugin isn't too shabby. And yeah, I've definitely used it on a few mixes. Secondly, the other reason I love Ozone is their brick wall limiter / maximizer plugin. And what this baby does is it allows you to make the volume of your mix louder without it sounding what we engineers called squashed or hyper compressed. Basically, there's no movement to your track. And what Ozone 7 allows you to do is use their IRC4 mode with the transient, and then you flip this on and you adjust it, and things are great. Also, you adjust this down. I usually put it on -0.7, and that's about it. You can also do true peak limiting, which is a great feature. Another really good thing about Ozone is their dither, and you got to click on it down here and then enable it. This is one of the best dithers on the market. Many say it's the best. I know that it's at least in the top 3, and really if you're in the top 3, you're covered. And basically what dither does is if you have people who are like really anal retentive about sound quality, like I used to be, I'm a little bit more flexible these days, but if you're really anal retentive, then having a really high quality dither when you go from your 24-bit mixes down to CD quality, for example, or if you go from your floating point down back to integer formats, you can use dither. And yeah, so basically it makes it sound better, especially your reverb tails and, you know, your low level noise. But I mean, some people say you don't even need dither, but hey, it's good to have one of the best ones out there, right? So, oh, one other thing. You can definitely use this DC8C as your bus compressor. So basically putting a compressor across your entire mix, and that gels everything together a little bit more during mastering. And, you know, there's a bunch of presets for that. And you also have your brick wall limiter. If you don't have Ozone, then DC8C also has that. So that's all the plugins. Like I said, this was a minimalist collection. Now, I would recommend these, and that is if you have the extra money. First of all, Isotope RX. I really can't live without it because you're always having issues with audio, whether it's noise or the audio is clipped or something else is wrong with it. Too much echo. Maybe there was a piece of, like a guitar string noise and you want to get rid of it. Well, you can get rid of it with RX and it works really well. And I can't recommend. By the way, this is more than just a plugin. It's actually a separate program from your DAW, and I just cannot recommend it highly enough. The other plugin I would highly recommend is Pink 2 from Acoustic Audio, and that's because although Ozone's EQ sounds good, whenever I'm mixing rock music, or really any kind of music, country, pop, whatever, this plugin, which is an emulation of API 550A, 550B, 5500, and the awesome 10-band graphic equalizer, the 560. It emulates them all. And let me tell you, it just sounds great. I love it. Pink 2 also has a compressor, actually 2 compressors. I believe this one is multi-band. And overall, it's just an excellent plugin. It's actually multiple plugins in one. I think you get like, I don't even want to say how many, like what, 6 EQs, 2 compressors, and a bunch of different saturation emulations. So overall, whenever I use Pink 2, which is basically every single mix, I just deliver results that my customers love. So I would be remiss to not at least mention acoustic audio plugins, but particularly Pink. Pink has been on the top of my list for a very long time, and even though I own a couple other acoustic audio plugins, Pink is the one that I use the most. So, all these plugins will run you $1,035, or if you go with my alternative suggestions, $805. If you remove reference and Bruce free, and I don't recommend removing reference, but technically you can get away with not using reference. So if you do remove those 2 plugins, the prices come down to $675, or if you buy the alternatives, $445. I think those are reasonable prices for most people. And yes, if you want to, you can use free or cheap alternatives, but this list in particular is what I personally could use to deliver professional quality mixes to anybody in the world. So I wish somebody way back in the day, now of course a lot of these plugins weren't available way back in the day, but in 2018, if somebody were to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Hey kid, get these plugins if you know what's good for you," these are the ones I would be told to get. And I would be very happy with them. I would never want to sell them. So, guys, if you liked the video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And I have an email list you can be a part of. I do not sell your information to third parties or give it away for free. It's just so you don't miss a single new Real Home Recording video. Also, most of my best videos have already been made, and I'm not going to retread topics, so I made playlists. If you're brand new to audio, definitely check those out. Again, I'll link to them in the video description as well as the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.